Well, welcome to the shop, everyone. On today's video, we're going to try to get this old stationary engine. It's an old Sattley 5 horsepower stationary engine that I restored a while back, basically just for yard art. I like old engines. I like old mechanical stuff, and I always wanted to get one of these old motors and make some parts for it, get it back running. Now, it's been sitting a good while now. I'm not going to say I know the exact date, but I know it's been over a year since I've ran it. I did run it a pretty good bit. Not really just to cut wood, but just to kind of watch it run. I like mechanical things a lot. So anyways, to get this thing going, I need to check the fuel. And I don't think the fuel's gone bad, but it may have. We'll just have to see. Now, these old motors, they're supposed to run on not only gasoline, but kerosene, and there's some other kind of, I can't even name it anymore, some kind of it sounds like an oil or something like that it would run off of. I guess it's something that's not refined as much as kerosene, maybe. So anyways, I'm gonna do a quick walk around of it. And this is a cord saw that I took an old core saw and I just took like the main parts off of it, the saw blade, the bearings, and then the rest of it I kind of made myself. So I guess it's the old chainsaw before chainsaws came. You stick a log up there and you push that table back and forth and cut for your wood. Old belt drive. That's the old tensioner there. You push it down, tightens the belt up. So the old engine here, I don't know how good you see it on the camera. It's got some oiling points. Now that oiler there is actually what oils the cylinder as it's running. It's for the piston going back and forth. And when you look on the crankshaft, and there's the piston and the rod, and then on the rod you'll see there's like a grease cap there. And what you do is you screw that grease cap down, and it forces grease as you turn it down to be pushed out the sides. So right now I'm turning it, and you'll see a little bit of grease coming out. And then for the main bearings, it has these strings and like a little cup, and you fill those up with oil, and it's like a wick, and so it kind of wicks the bearings to keep them lubricated. Now this engine here is actually a governed engine. It's not a hit and miss engine. So the governor, these little weights fly out and govern the engine at a particular RPM that you would want for your cutting. The actual throttle is this right here. You turn it tighter or looser to how high or how fast you want the engine to run. See, down here is part of the ignition system. Now I take the ignition system, I have it sitting in the shop. We'll bring it out here in a minute. But anyways, this is what comes across. Let's see if I can come back the other way. And kind of like when it strikes that, it pushes down, makes contact there, and that what sends the ignition to the spark plug for it to fire. So you can actually adjust the timing a little bit on the engine by that slot. I don't know if you can see that slot back there. You can actually adjust the ignition timing with that a little bit. Alright, so like for the gas, it didn't have a gas tank with it, and so I actually went to a scrap yard and I found one of these old stainless steel fire extinguishers. I took it home and I took my lathe, took a whole piece of aluminum and machined me out a cap for it. And also I drilled some holes in it, and then I put that clear tubing in there, so as I put gasoline in there I could tell how much fuel was in the system. And then I got my cutoff valve and everything here. So this old I don't know, we call it carburetors. I think back then they called them mixers, if I'm saying that right. So it has a little pump here, and as this rod goes up and down, it continuously pumps gas into this reservoir. And then there's at the top of the reservoir, there's an overflow, and that overflow flows down through here and back to the gas tank. So it's always drawing fuel in, and whatever's excess, it just drains back out, and that's how it keeps the level on the mixer, as they call it. And like this knob here is what you turn to drain the gas out of it, like when you're done running and you close it. This knob here is for your fuel mixture. It's kind of like your jet. You can kind of move it around to the engine sounds how you like it to sound, you know. Just lean, rich a little bit. And over here on the head, this is your exhaust valve, and this is your intake, and there's nothing at all that actuates the intake valve other than, you know, the atmospheric pressure. So the piston makes a low pressure, and from the atmosphere wanting to come in, it draws the valve open, and that's the intake stroke. And then it comes back up for the compression stroke, and then that's the exhaust there. And how those are oiled, they just have two little spot there that you put oil, and a spot there that you put oil. So we'll get some oil on that to oil that up. A couple little places, a lot of places that you put oil on these motors. This system right here, see here, goes to the carburetor, and it's connected in the head. Now the head here, it doesn't go in the combustion chamber, it's actually to the water jacket. So when you fill this reservoir up, this has water in it. And especially when you run kerosene, they say, when you run kerosene, to keep it from like spark knocking, you adjust that valve open to where it drips a little bit of water in with your fuel to keep it from spark knock, essentially. So that's a pretty neat water injection way back then. All right, now the reservoir here, which you can't really see down in there. Oh yeah, you can, pretty good. You fill that up with water, and you know, even when the water's boiling, you know, water boils at 200 and something degrees, so the motor can't never seem to get over that temperature, because as the water boils off, that absorbs energy and keeps the engine cool at that temperature. And that right there is just when you're done running it, to keep it from freezing. You know, you'd open that up. Looks like it had a dirt dauber in it, but that's what you'd open up to drain the water out. All right, so that's the belt. That's the exhaust pipe. I don't know if a 5-horse really needs an exhaust pipe that big, but that's what they thought back then. And I don't know. I like the way it sounds when it runs. I had made some brass nuts for the head, so when I had this thing detailed up and everything shining, it was a very, very pretty engine. And I don't know, one day I might take it back and redo it or repaint everything, polish everything back up and make it really pretty again. All right, well, let's see if we can get it running. Let's go get the ignition box. All right, so this is the ignition box I built for that old engine. I basically went to Lowe's or Home Depot, I don't remember, and just bought some regular old pine wood. And then I built me a box, and I tried to make it look like it was an old-timey looking box. Got the little glass brass insulator. I thought that was cool. They sell wires that look old. Now these have been out in the sun, kind of deteriorated some. And the old box, you know, you build it and then you just like hit it with hammers and chains and stuff like that, put a bunch of nicks in it, and then you just get some stain and you wipe it down with some stain, then wipe it off, and it gives it a, you know, old look. So I just wanted something that kind of looked period correct for that older engine. So what it is, basically, it's a buzz box, kind of what they used to use on old engines to fire them up. And I'm not the best explainer on exactly, try to explain it the best I can anyways. So anyways, when I take it out there and I set it up, I got this right here that actually comes out of the box, and that actually clamps to the bottom of the engine. So that's what grounds the engine to this box. Then earlier I was showing you where there's points on the engine where you can adjust the timing. That's where this plugs in. So then I have the switch here I can turn on and off. So anyways, the way it's wired up, well, and also I have a old lawnmower battery. That's what I used to power it. Now I've had this on a charge, but it's an older battery. I don't know how well it will hold power. We'll see. But I left it on a charge for a good while, so hopefully it'll work out for us. But anyways, it's just a 12-volt system, and then you have a regular automotive type coil, and then you just have a regular relay with open and closed contacts in there, and you'd hook that up to where you have power from your battery. You'd hook this up to a ground. I'm gonna move the box over a little bit, get it over the edge. Anyways, you'd hook that on there, and then see that right there? I want to ground it, but I don't have enough hands to ground it. Alright, so that there would be just like the engine is coming around and it's closed those points. So when I turn this switch on and the battery's hooked up, this normally open, normally closed contact has a magnetic coil in it that when it's energized, it pulls something shut. Alright? So anyways, the way this is wired up is as soon as it's energized, it pulls it away, and when it pulls it away, then it opens the circuit that goes to the coil, so it closes, and then it energizes and opens, so it buzzes. That's how it got its name, Buzz Box, because this coil buzzes as fast as, I don't know, mechanically it can. And that's what's powering the coil. See, the coil charges, then it has magnetic lines of flux that collapse, and that's how we get our high voltage spark from them. So let me put you down a second and we'll go ahead and give it a try. Alright, so I got the battery all hooked up. Got the clamp so this table is grounded to it. I got the spark plug laying on the table, and this part here is going to act like those points opening and closing. So with the power on, I do have the switch on. As I touch the table, it should arc. So every time that wheel comes around and closes, that's the arc that the engine is getting. I don't know if that focused very good. Alright, so every time that wheel comes around and closes, that's the spark that the engine gets to make it run. So anyways, Buzz Box looks like it's in working order. We'll get it out there and plug it in, and then see what else we need to do. Alright, gonna start hooking everything up. Alright, so we got the ignition system all hooked up. That just goes to one of the bolts that holds it down, grounds the whole motor. Then we got our wire there that goes to our, I don't know what you call these things, old style points. So when that wheel comes around, that's what would start the ignition. Got the spark plug wire hooked up to the spark plug. And we tried it out in the shop, so we know that part's going to work. So the next thing is, let's get some fuel in it and see what we run into there. Alright, so we got the carburetor or mixer filled up with some fuel. Now, when the engine runs, this actually right here will move up and down off of this lever that runs the exhaust valve. And that's actually the fuel pump that'll continually fill the mixer or carburetor up. Alright, so let's turn on the gas, and then that line, it looks green. I hope it's not really green, but I don't know if you can see that or not. But anyway, the fuel's up there. Alright. I guess the next thing to do is make sure the ignition's off and spin it around a couple times. So what I like to do to kind of get it primed up before I start it, the actual choke is actually under there. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. So we got the choke there. I like to try to keep it closed so no dirt daubers and stuff get up in there. So leave that cracked a little bit. And then what I normally like to do is the intake valve. I actually push the intake valve, and then I'll spin the flywheel over and kind of prime the carburetor, start getting it to draw some of the fuel back and forth in the carburetor. So let's do that next. Alright, so we got the carburetor all primed up. We got a little bit of fresh fuel in there. Hope that'll be good enough. Next thing I want to do is get everything oiled up. Now this is a dripper that actually drips a certain amount of, if I get the camera there, a little sight glass there. You can't see it real well, but yeah. Open that top there and it'll drip a certain amount on the piston. And looks like there's enough there, so we'll close that back up. Oil some of the spots on here, so I'm gonna fill those up with oil. Let that start wicking to the bearings. This one over here. Now we had already screwed that cap down, so we know grease is on it. Got a oil spot there. Alright, gonna go ahead and grease up the old cord saw right quick. Alright, so got our mixer full, got gas in the tank, got everything oiled up, got the dripper dripping, got our old cord saw here all greased up. We tested the ignition system, have everything hooked up on it. So the next thing I need to do is pour some water in there. So, as I was turning the engine over, it doesn't feel like it has compression like it used to. So, I'm not sure if the rings are stuck on the piston or it's the valves themselves. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pop the valves a little to see if I can't get those to seat a little bit better. So, I'm just going to... Alright, so kind of pop the valves a little bit. If there's any like rust on the seat or something, maybe that would make it seal a little bit better. Let's see, I took the belt completely off to make it a little bit easier to spin over. A lot of times this thing can sit for a long time and it starts right up, but we pretty much checked everything, and if the compression isn't too low, it ought to start right up. So let's give it a try. Alright, well there it is running. I was a little bit scared I might have let it sit too long, because sometimes when you let some things sit too long, it's a little bit harder to get them going. But, you know, some of this old machinery, you know, it wasn't treated very well back in the day, so yeah, they just made it where it's pretty tough stuff and would run. Ignition box is working really good. I might go try to find a couple pieces of wood that maybe we could saw, see how it does. I like that old flat belt running on there. Yeah, I really do enjoy this. There's a fuel pump for the mixer, and it works off the exhaust rocker arm. And that's the intake valve. It doesn't pull in much, does it? But that's atmospheric pressure pulling it Alright, well let's see if it'll cut some wood now. I don't know how dull that blade is. It looks pretty rusty, but we'll see how she does. Well, alright, seems to be running pretty good. Seems to be slicing through that wood pretty easily. Do a few more cuts here. Piece of wood there is getting a little short. Gonna get me another one. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Getting this thing running again. I'm actually pretty pleased that it did start up as easy as it did. No major problems with it. So that's good. And as always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please give us that like. Subscribe if you'd like to. And as always, we appreciate you guys so much for watching. And we hope to see y'all on the next video. Thanks so much.